Hi guys, welcome back to eGroup with Adriana and myself. We just want to remind you guys that eGroup is a safe space where we get to dive in and learn more about Jesus. So why don't you guys get your notebooks out, your journals, or some paper to write down, and we're going to kick off eGroup.
Exactly, because first, before we get into any questions, we have a challenge for you guys. So we're going to be doing a game where you have to try and list as many objects that need to be plugged into power as you possibly can, okay? And so you'll have maybe 1 minute, so feel free to pause the video and write down as many objects as you can.
Well, we're going to get into our first point now, so let's go to the slideshow. And we learned about power and electricity, and we know that when it's plugged in, it's really useful, but when it's not very useful at all. So if you can think about a lamp, and in your bedroom, if you have a lamp, when it's plugged in, it's amazing. It lights the room up, it helps you read your book, you can use it to see, it's so good. But when it's not plugged in, it's just like a piece of metal in your room. It is not helpful at all. And we know that when we're plugged into things, just like being plugged into God, we are so full of electricity and we're alive. And we need to ask ourselves, who is our power source? Who are we plugged into? Are we plugged into people that help us and build us up? Are we plugged into God, who is the ultimate God? He helps us with everything. Or are we plugged into people or social media or things that don't add any weight to us? And we need to be able to identify what unnecessary power sources we might be plugged into. So we have an activity for you guys to do. And what I need you to do is on your paper, you need to write your name in the middle. And then all around your name, you need to write what power sources you're plugged into. So maybe it's God, maybe it's your parents, your friends, you can name your friends. And then you need to identify what's useful and what's not. And we need to think today, are we plugged, is our main source plugged into God? And if it's not, then maybe we need to identify what we maybe need to pull out our plug-in. Because we know that just like on a multi-box, when we're plugged into too many things, that's not very good, right? We know that when things are overloaded in a plug, it can actually start a fire. Now, that is not good. But when we're plugged into one main source, that's what we want to have.
Cool, so we're going to pause. You just pause the video and just write down as many as you can, and we'll get to the next question. Awesome, welcome back. I hope that you managed to write down a lot of ideas of what you're plugged into. We're going to be getting into the second question, and it's all about God the Father. Now, in the preach, I talked about how Jesus is the perfect example of a relationship that we want to look like with God. He continually prayed for him, asked for wisdom, and whenever he needed someone to talk to, it was God that he looked to. But for some of us, maybe it can be kind of hard because we look at the fathers we have, the earthly fathers that we have, and we're like, man, my father doesn't look like that. I can't easily talk to him. So for this activity, what we want you to do is, it might be a bit sensitive, a bit vulnerable, and that's okay because we'll pray for you after this, but we want you to identify what is your idea of a father? Maybe looking at your own example with your earthly father, even what you know about God. And what you're going to do for your activity is you're going to finish this sentence. So what you're going to write down is, a father is ... And what you're going to do is just simply write below ideas that you have about your father, your own ideas and perceptions. For me and my own father, it could be a father that is distant. A father is distant. And that was an idea that I had before I came to church because of my own dad. But now if I was to look at my relationship with God, I could be like, man, a father is someone who is generous. A father is someone who comforts. A father is someone who loves, even when I make mistakes. Even with my own dad, I was saying in my preach how my relationship with him has changed. I can now say a father is someone who generously gives when I need help. A father is someone who's always there when I call. What are your ideas of what a father is like? You can write down maybe positive things and negative things, but this is just for you to look in your heart and be like, man, what are my ideas? So feel free, pause the video for as long as you want, and you can come back to us as we get into our next question.
That's right. Well, let's go to the next slide. And I love how Adriana said, the positive things that we see in a father, the amazing thing is that God is so much more than those things. So if we think that when we think of a father and we think of them as loving, we know that God is even more loving than our own fathers. And that's so amazing. Now, what we want to do is we have a relationship with God, but we want to increase our connection with Him. And we want to ask ourselves, do we treat God like He is our best friend? And how integrated is God into your everyday life? And we were listening how Adriana was talking about sometimes we can just pray at the end of a night. Sometimes we can just leave God and leave our reading the Bible to later on because, we don't think we need it that much. But we know that when we're plugged into the source, when we're plugged into God, we want to integrate Him and have Him in all areas of our life. And so today, I want you to ask yourself, is God really my best friend? When I wake up in the morning, do I say, thank you, Jesus, for another day? When I'm walking to school, am I thinking about God? When I'm making new friends or struggling to make new friends, am I asking God to help me? God cares about the little things, so He wants to be part of your everyday life. Now, we're going to give you the opportunity again to pause the video and just to write down what you do on a daily basis. And we want to ask ourselves, is God part of when I wake up? Is He part of when I go to school? Is He part of more than just church on a Sunday? Or do I just wait until a Sunday to talk to God? Do I just wait until someone else is doing praise and worship for me? Or do I say, no, God, today I'm choosing to praise and worship You in everything I do? So why don't you pause the video and write down what you do in a day and where we can have more of God in our everyday life.
Awesome. Well, I hope you've written a list of things that you do and how you can incorporate God more into your life. I know that with me, the way that I incorporate God more into my own life is I ask for Him for daily help, for even the smallest of things. And so this week, it was quite sad. I was actually crying. But I decided to get a rescue cat, okay? I wanted to adopt a cat.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I named her Evie, and she was super scared because she had just come to a new house. And she'd been on the streets for a while, and so she wasn't used to her home, and she didn't know the environment. And so I brought her home, and I put her in my room because they say that you should just keep them into one space so they get used to it. And something terrible happened. She somehow opened the door of my room and my kitchen window was open and she escaped.
Oh no.
So that's Adriana's week. I have an escaped cat, but the way that I've integrated God into that really sad situation is I was like, man, God, I pray that you just protect Evie. Even if she's outside in the cold, that you're going to be there. And thank you, Jesus, that you're going to give me the wisdom of what I can do to get my cat back. And so there is hope. While I've been praying, sometimes I'm like, God, if I can just see her and make sure she's safe. And then in that moment, I saw Evie on my back door eating from her cat bowl that I left out there.
Wow.
And so still haven't got her, but I'll keep you updated. But that's even just a small example of how you can integrate God even in the silliest of situations.
That's right.
And so I hope that during your week, you're integrating God more and making Him your power source. We have loved you being here with us, and we cannot wait to see you again.
Yes, we'll see you later.